you do good and you succeed, naturally you will take advantage of the people. You'll abuse your success. There's no person who could not stop himself from committing sins. You have to control yourself. And when you can control yourself, you can guide other people to control themselves. All right, forbidding wrong here, it takes a lot of faith too. Any one of us could sit around and tell everyone to do good deeds. That's not a problem. What is a problem is telling people what not to do. Telling people this is haram, this is heresy, this is bad. That's where people take offense to it. Number one, they don't like it. They find it negative. They may be the people who commit those offenses. And I try to always soften this by saying, when we're studying, we have to preach what we're talking about. We have to. We have no choice. We are even taught, even if you don't practice it because you're weak, you have to preach it. If you preach only what you practice, Shaitan will be very happy. This is Hassan al-Basri said this. And who's the best preacher of his era? Hassan al-Basri. Even Sayyidah Aisha used to say, I want to sit and listen to the young man who speaks with the words of prophets. He guides with the guidance of prophets. Hassan al-Basri. Aisha said this about him. And she was critical too. She was not someone who was just saying nice words to everybody. Sayyidah Aisha, if she had a criticism, she'd say it. Okay? She's the one who said, who is this young man who guides with the guidance of prophets? So Hassan al-Basri knows about da'wah better than anybody else, because he was preaching to all these young tabi'een who had never met the Prophet, the Sahaba. And he had met many Sahaba. So he said, he's the one who said, if you make a decision to preach to the people, only what you manage to practice, Shaitan will be very happy. That means nobody will do anything. He said, rather, speak of what you know. Tell everybody what you know, and then try to go home and practice it yourself. If you fail, you pick yourself up and try again. Okay? So forbidding wrong, when you forbid wrong, I always like to say to people, listen, no one is expecting anyone to be perfect. You as the listener are not perfect. So when I'm going to say things sometimes, I'm going to have to say things. It's in the book. It's not my religion. I have to say things that you may not practice. And you may feel awkward about it. And your kids may look at you. Oh, you do that, right? You say, oh, yes, I'm not perfect. You still have to obey me if you're my kid, though, right? You still have to respect your authority. We don't expect our parents to be perfect. We don't expect our imams to be perfect. We don't even expect our shiyukh to be perfect. We expect them to be sincere. We expect them to try. That's the expectation. And hopefully they will be that. Okay? Hopefully they will be that. But we have to understand this. The speaker is no one is practicing this whole deen. The Prophet himself said this. No one will try to tackle this whole deen except that the deen will tackle him. The deen will defeat him. No one's going to be perfect. But we have to all say the truth. Speak this truth and say what's halal and what's haram. And then we have to try to practice it. So that's why the second thing here that is not manifest, because not a lot of people do this. Everyone will call you to feed the poor, right? How many people will say, hey, people, we're doing this thing that's haram? Very few people will want to do that. Just like the branches are very clear, but the trunk, you don't see it as much. You don't see the trunk as much. And nobody says, let's look at the tree. What a beautiful trunk. You don't. You say, look at this beautiful, like the branches, the leaves, the shape, all the color, all that. That's what you look at. Nobody looks at a tree and says, wow, I love that trunk. Likewise, in a community, people love the good deeds that we do. People don't love the forbidding of wrong. It's bitter. It's like sandpaper. But I'm telling you, it's the best for you. That sandpaper, to remove those rough spots, you don't like it, but it's the best for you. And the worst are the people who do all sorts of good deeds. They never will ever forbid wrong. Wrong destroys the good that you do. That's why. Do you know what it takes to kill a tree? If you take bark off for even a small bit, but you take the bark off all the way around, so there's a full ring of no bark, the tree dies. People don't know that. The reason that we have to forbid the wrong is the wrong destroys this beautiful stuff that we're trying to do, right? Like if we did this soup kitchen and all of a sudden it became just a place of other sins, yes, we're feeding the poor, but there are other sins happening in this building, then we're ruining our dawah. That's just an example. Same thing in any masjid. Same thing in any community. The haram destroys the good. It's almost like a raccoon in your house. You know that these raccoons, they're going to go on the stove, they're going to knock the cap off the stove, the pot, and they're going to eat straight from the pot. They're wild animals. They want to eat. So when you expel the raccoon from your home, are you now being evil? Are you now bad? It's necessary. You're good. You're good. Right? You're necessary. Likewise, people what they don't like about Islam is that Islam says no to certain things. Alcohol we're not doing. Zina we're not doing. Liwat we're not doing. Riba we're not doing. All sorts of things we're not doing. And people say, oh, that part they don't like. What they like is the Buddhism, the spirituality, the Sufis, and all that silly stuff that has no meat and potatoes to it. It's just sentiments, Rumi books. It's just sentiment. There's no meat and potatoes there, right? They don't want the fiqh and the sharia and the right aqidah, etc. But that's where you benefit. That's really where the benefit is. It's the sandpaper that smooths the wood out. So that's why it's mentioned second, because very few people will do it. Many people will command to the good, and few will forbid the wrong because of the blowback of forbidding wrong, because of the sandpaper nature of forbidding wrong. And most people who forbid wrong are who? Tend to be people who don't have many connections in society. Because I can bear the brunt of forbidding wrong, but I don't want to embarrass my friends, right? I don't want to embarrass my kids. I don't want to someone saying there's a lot of meat in Sufism. Yeah, I'm not talking about that Sufism. I'm talking about the Barnes and Noble Sufism, right? Barnes and Noble Sufism it's heretical even. You know, Barnes and Noble is the bookstore. In England, they might not have that. They have, what is that? White Thread or something? No. What's the famous British bookstore? There's another bookstore. Waterstones. In England, they have Waterstone bookstore. It's like Barnes and Noble. The Islam section, it's basically half books on terrorism, anti-terrorist books, and the rest is just like fluffy popcorn, goofy Sufi sentiments. That's all it is. It's not even, there's no tariqah in there. There's no tarbiyah. There's no ibadah. It's just sentimental poems and perennialistic, ideas. That's usually 90% of the books in the Barnes and Noble bookstore about Islam. That kind of Sufism they have no problem with. No Sufism that will say no to your nafs. That's what it is. Or set your aqidah straight, or set your behavior straight, or say no to your temptations. That they don't want that kind of tasawwuf. Okay.